Hello guys, welcome back to Car Obsession and welcome to another point of view review. As you can see, this time around I'm joined by the MG HS PHEV. I know it is a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Before I go out on a drive with you guys, let me briefly talk to you about this car. It comes in just two trim levels, SE and the car you see before you, which is the range topping trophy. Starting prices for the SE, £31,495, which is far cheaper compared to the plug-in hybrid versions of the Ford Kuga, the Kia Sportage and the Citroen C5 Aircross. For the trophy though, this has a starting price of £33,995. Now I will quickly show you the boot because that's going to be quite an important area on a family SUV. It isn't the largest in class, but it's still quite usable. You do have a power tailgate, which doesn't always work, bear with me. I normally just press the button, to be fair. Nope, sometimes it works, sometimes it's a little bit temperamental. Just press the button to make life easier. So the boot has got my filming stuff in it, but I will cut to a clip where it's a lot more tidier. So 507 litres with the rear seats up. If you need more space, you can of course extend that to 1,484 litres by folding down the 60/40 rear seat. So not the biggest boot, but still very much usable. Let me talk you through what's under the bonnet and then we'll go for a drive, I promise. So of course, with this being a plug-in hybrid, you have an engine as well as an electric motor. In the case of the engine, it is a 1.5 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol, which together combined with the electric motor produce 371 horsepower and 569 newton meters of torque. If you prefer that in pound-feet, I will drop a caption below, but I believe it's a little under 420. Now, although this is quite a large car and it tips the scales at almost 1900 kilos, it's quite brisk, as you will see once I get behind the wheel. 0 to 62, 6.8 seconds, and the top speed, in case you're really wondering, is 102. But let's face it, in the UK, top speed of a car is pretty irrelevant. In regards to fuel economy, now this does take into account the electric motor, but MG state on a combined run, you can expect, well, you can aim up to 672 mpg. Now, if you take the electric motor out of the equation, more realistically, I'd say you're looking at between 40 and 45 mpg. I have achieved low 40s in this, but in today's drive, it's actually been more around the high 20s, low 30s, which is pretty disappointing, I'm sure you'll agree. And I've driven this car in a relatively sedate manner, so it's not as if I've been redlining it or anything. Anyway, let me get into the car. You do have keyless entry as standard. By the way, guys, let me know what you think of this. The design, I mean. I really like the silver. This is sterling silver, which kind of looks like a champagne. It is, pardon me, quite pleasing. Anyway, get on with it, Aaron. Get into the car. So as part of the trophy specification, you have a 12.3 inch touchscreen and a 12.3 inch digital display. Let's turn the car on like so, and my seat will move into my set driving position. Now, I know some of you prefer to hear the car when I do these videos, whereas others want me to speak. Given the fact this isn't a performance car and there isn't really much to hear, I think I'm going to be doing more talking in this video. So if that puts you off, that's fine. I completely get it. So slip it into drive. Make sure I'm good. Check the rear view. Yep, lovely. So one of the first things I found when I drove this car is just how comfortable it is. The leather seats are plush, they're comfortable, but they're also quite supportive as well, which I wasn't really expecting. So that was a pleasant surprise. The ride as well is more of a supple nature. I'd say it's geared more towards comfort than it is dynamism, but that's fine because this isn't meant to be a performance car or a hot hatch, is it? You don't really want or need this car to handle in such a fashion. So yeah, the soft ride is absolutely fine with me. Granted, at slower speeds, particularly if you hit a bump or a pothole, it can jar the cabin a little bit and you can hear the suspension working underneath you, but for the majority of the time, I'm sure you'll find this is a comfortable companion in which to spend quite a bit of time with. You do have a choice of driving modes. If I go into here, the touchscreen is nice, by the way, but it's a bit fiddly to use on the move. So as you may be able to see, you've got comfort, normal and sport. I will pop it into sport when the mood arises, but yeah, I would argue this car doesn't really fit a sporty nature. It's not too bad in the corners, but yeah, sports driving mode, I think in this car, in my humble opinion, is a little bit needless. I'll make sure we're good. Some of you may have spotted that the steering wheel is a little bit of a quirky shape. Not only does it have a flat bottom, but it's also got a flat top as well. So yeah, a little bit unusual. Someone actually said to me a few days ago it reminds them of the Austin Allegro. I didn't think I'd be mentioning that car in this video, but here we are. In my eyes, it almost reminds you of, and again, I can't believe I'm mentioning this car in the same sentence, but there was a phase, I don't know whether Aston Martin still do it, but Aston Martin went through a phase where they had squarish steering wheels, and that's what this steering wheel kind of reminds me of. Now, if you look at the accumulated total on the right-hand side of the digital display, which may be a little bit too small for you to read, if you can read it, well done. You're looking at 33.6 mpg, and that is the accumulated total since I've had the car, and most of my driving has been pretty sedate, if I'm going to be honest. Like I say, this car, although it is quite brisk, I would say the character of this car doesn't really encourage you to drive this car fast, but this is a family SUV, so yeah, that isn't a criticism, guys, it's just an observation. Just reposition my head. Okay, so as you can see, national speed limit, there's a BMW i3 in the distance, but we'll pop it in sport mode and you can get a flavour of this car's performance because it is quite sprightly. So national speed limit. I actually managed to trigger the traction control then. Now that's the traffic sign recognition telling me it's still 30 miles per hour, which it isn't. I will get onto the safety systems in a bit. In fact, let me just have a rant about them now. So this car, as standard, as does the SE, they both come with MG Pilot, which is MG's suite of safety systems. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against having safety systems in modern cars, that would be stupid. They can genuinely save lives. However, quite a few of them can cause more of a distraction or an annoyance or a hindrance. And that is the case with some of the systems in this car. The traffic sign recognition isn't the most accurate, it can be a little bit laggy, and to be honest with you, I think you're better off just turning it off, and that's my humble opinion. Other people that own this car or have driven this car may disagree. That's absolutely fine. There's some other features that I would urge you to turn off because they're just really annoying in my opinion. So scroll down here, MG Pilot. If I scroll down here, you've got driver fatigue monitoring and driver distraction monitoring as well. And for example, I drove this car this morning, I was on a slip road, I checked my mirror to make sure I was okay to join the A27, and the car moaned at me because I was apparently distracted. So yeah, whenever I drive this car, I turn both of those off because they're just annoying. You have a little sensor, radar, camera thingy bob here, which measures you, and yeah, it is a bit of a, it does feel like a bit of a nanny, and I don't really like it. Yeah, that is one safety system that I think this car could do without, but again, that's my opinion. So that's my little rant about the safety systems. Back onto how the car drives. So as I may have mentioned up until this point, not the most dynamic to drive, but that's fine, it doesn't need to be. Having said that, in the corners, the HS PHEV is pretty competent. The grip isn't bad by any means. The body roll isn't quite as pronounced as I was expecting. And credit where credit's due, the HS plug-in, yeah, It does a fairly decent job in the corners. It's not fun, it's not dynamic. I wouldn't say it's particularly rewarding to drive, but it doesn't really need to be. So yeah, those are observations, guys, not complaints. So before some of you keyboard warriors chime in and go, oh, that's not the point of the car, it's not a hot hatch. Yeah, I know it's not a hot hatch. I fully understand this is not designed to compete against a Lamborghini Urus. That would be stupid. But on the same hand, I am here to tell you how the car drives. One thing that is a little bit disappointing is the steering. It's quite vague, it doesn't really give you much feedback, and it just feels quite numb. So, are we still in sport mode? I can't remember if I left it in there. The steering feels quite heavy, so the steering does get heavier in sport mode. I'm going to knock it back into normal. So although the steering rate changes, yeah, I'd say the steering feedback is one of the negative aspects of this car. The brakes can also feel a little bit numb on the first dab of the pedal, but to be honest with you, that's an observation I found in many hybrids or EVs, so that isn't a problem that's exclusive to the HS plug-in hybrid. I do find, yeah, a lot of the time the brake pedal does feel a little bit numb on the initial dab, but as you travel the pedal further down, you do start to get a bit more feedback. It's a glorious day on the outskirts of Chichester. Let's bring that down a bit so we're not all blinded. The ride, as you would have seen, is a bit more choppy down here, but yeah, you do have quite a few undulations, and even though the ride is being disturbed a bit, I'm still very comfortable, so I've got no complaints there. Let me talk you through the features. I've mentioned the 12.3 inch touchscreen, the 12.3 inch digital display, which you can actually change how the cluster looks, so you can have more of a street view like so, or you can have the intelligent drive, which that symbol there kind of reminds me of what you get from a Tesla. So yeah, that's quite interesting. I actually prefer the more simplified theme, so we'll go back to that. You have heated front seats, dual zone climate control, keyless entry. You have a 360-degree parking camera, which I will show you in a little bit. I also believe you've got park assist as well, which obviously we can't use because we're at full chat. Well, not full speed, but you know what I mean. I'm on the road, I'm driving, so it's going to be too fast to use park assist. I've got 8-speaker sound system instead of the 6 you get in the SE. A wireless phone charging pad down there. Yeah, the list of features goes on and on. Of course, I've got Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which in this day and age on a modern car seems almost obvious to say, but I'll mention it nonetheless. Radio, Bluetooth, again, that almost goes without saying now, doesn't it, on a modern car. That is bright. It's been a wonderful day. Lovely weather, bit nippy, but nice to see the sun make an appearance. Now, refinement is one thing I haven't mentioned yet. If I just shut up for a few moments. Hopefully you can hear there is tyre noise entering the cabin from the Bridgestones that are wrapped around the 19-inch alloys. I wouldn't say it's by any means deafening, and at 70 miles per hour using a sound meter, this had a reading of where it was between 66.5 and 67 decibels, which is pretty good. For context, the Cupra Formentor and the Audi S3 I reviewed a few weeks ago. Granted, I know they are performance cars, but they are the most recent cars I've tested, so that's the best comparison. They came in at, I think, 71.1 decibels. So yeah, this is obviously a fair bit quieter than those cars. Wind noise is, yeah, not too bad. The transition between EV and the engine is seamless, and even when the car is using the engine, it's still hushed. The 1.5 petrol works away in the background, no fuss, it doesn't roar or shout at you. I've driven 1 or 2 hybrids whereby when you go into the engine mode, it's quite clear it's done that, because it gets a little bit loud. One thing I haven't mentioned up until this point is that you can drive this on EV only for up to 75 miles, which is far better than the Ford Kuga plug-in hybrid I had a few years ago, because that would do 35 miles on EV only, whereas this will do 75, so that's quite a large improvement. I also believe this will do more EV miles than the Kia Sportage as well. So if your commute to work is fairly short and you have the capability to charge a car at work, then you may find that if you were to own this car, you would just be using the electric, the EV only mode. You wouldn't really need to fall back on the 1.5 litre petrol. So that's something worth bearing in mind. Now, if you're looking to finance this car, to use the Trophy as an example, if you were to put down a deposit of around £3,900, you'd get £500 dealer contribution, and then per month for 49 months you would be paying 400, and no, it's not 30 miles per hour, it's 60 down here. Behave yourself. Nope, it's 60. Nope. And this is what I mean, this is where it becomes a bit of a distraction, because I'm now faffing about trying to turn this off. There we go. Be quiet. Yes, £429 per month for 49 months. That's with a representative APR of 4.35%. Bear in mind that at the time of filming, if you test drive this car, you get an extra £1,000 towards the price of it. So yeah, a nice added bonus there. If you're thinking about having this as a company car, the BIK rating is just 5%. So yeah, if you want to have this as a company car, you won't have too much deducted from your wages. In regards to CO2 emissions, I think this is 12 grams per kilometre. I may need to double it in as a caption, because I must confess that's one figure I don't know off the top of my head. As well as the comfort, I think another area of this car that deserves to be highlighted is the interior. I can't show you too much because I'm driving now, of course, but I will dub in a piece of footage that shows you the interior in better detail. Now, I remember driving so when MG first came back under its new Chinese ownership, I remember driving a few of the early offerings, and yes, they were cheap, but when you got inside the cabin, you realised they were cheap. Yeah, the interiors left quite a bit to be desired. Roll the clock forward to 2025, and the MGs are still good value for money, don't get me wrong, but I mean, look at the step up in interior design. It is almost night and day. Yeah, this is a nice place to be. I quite like the copper bronze stitching on the dash. Steering wheel feels nice in the hand. Yeah, it's a remarkable step up. So MG, if I weren't driving, I would applaud you, because yeah, you've really stepped it up when it comes to this area. I think if I were to cover up the MG badge, I think a lot of people wouldn't be able to guess that this is an MG, and that's no disrespect to MG. If anything, it's a compliment just how far the brand has come in regards to improving the interiors. Anyway, almost time for me to finish. Got to be careful because I've got a Range Rover right behind me. Don't want him to go into the back of me. As is normally the case with my point of view drives, I finish with the wonderful views of the majestic South Downs, basking in the glory of the wonderful spring sunshine. Look at that. Oh, what a lovely part of the world. Right, let's pop it into park. So I hope you have found this video helpful or enjoyable. If so, be sure to like, comment and subscribe. If you are subscribed, don't forget to click the bell icon so you get notified every time I make a video. But until the next time, guys, be sure to keep up the car obsession.